Still says waiting for Sir Hunts. Oh, did that last time. Alright, we should be actually live this time. Almost did what I did last time, where I went for like 40 minutes and didn't realize I was not live at all. But that didn't happen this time. So let's give everyone, probably be like maybe 20, 30 people that watch this. Let's give those people some time to get here live. For everybody else who's watching this after the fact, Mondays at 10:30 are a really good time for me to live stream. So just, eventually, like by the time House of the Dragon trailer drops, I'm going to be definitely doing weekly live streams. So this will be my slot before the show comes on. Once the show comes on, I plan on going live right after it airs, which is a usual thing that I did for like the last 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, season 6, 7, and 8. Should have been 9, if you ask me. Wex is a secret Targaryen, ready for my Song of Ice and Fire fix. Hell yeah, brother. We're going to be talking about, I know the title is confusing. I didn't think about that. I should probably change it to Cersei Winds of Winter. Cersei is the Lion Queen, Winds of Winter, not Game of Thrones, because that makes it seem like I'm only going to be talking about her. Which she does not have a POV in Game of Thrones, but it seems like I'm only going to be talking about her character in that book, so I'll change it quick. Oh, shit. All right. Shout out to Philly D, Shantaray Wilkins. Wex is a secret tag. And everybody else who is here that is not typed in the chat. I can't remember if I said this before I actually started or if I said it when I thought I was live. But the waiting image is an image of Daenerys, but that's deceiving. This is going to be a Cersei live stream. She's one of my... I hate her, but I love to read her POV. It's so much fun. We'll go ahead and let's do this. I'll start by saying my little piece. She actually makes me question my sanity sometimes because I think, hey, I've had a train of thought similar to that before. It really makes you wonder who she's inspired by. Like, not in history and, like, historical figures and all that shit. Or, like, other characters in fantasy literature. But, like, who George met in his life that made him want to write a character like her. Alar Lilivali. Hello, greetings from Estonia. What's up? Isn't that in Eastern Europe, right? Where is Estonia? Let's see. Helsinki? Oh, you're in the north, my dude. You're in the Gulf of Finland. Fuck, it's probably really cold there, huh? Look at this image. Here, let me do this. Y'all can't see it, but you can. Now, look at that. That's the first image that popped up when I typed in Helsinki. Holy shit, dude. That's a lot of ice. It's gorgeous, though. But yeah, so let's jump into the tick of it, right? All right. So the first thing that I want to talk about is who is Cersei Lannister? Who do I think she is, right? And I say, who do I think? Because I'm not really going to be talking about the TV show at all, if I can help it. But this is Lena Headey did a really good job portraying her on screen. Dan and Dave wrote a good version of her character. But the true version is the books. It's plain and simple. You can say the books are better and not hate on the show because they're two separate entities. But I've always tried to maintain that on this channel. But who I think she is, from reading her POV in A Feast for Crows, and I think there's a couple in A Dance with Dragons, and then hearing about her from other characters like Tyrion and Jaime, and Clash of Kings and Storm of Swords, and then Tyrion and Game of Thrones, like, if she didn't have 2 brothers, she might not have turned out as bad. If she had some sisters, like if her twin was another girl, she would have probably been mentally better off, right? So when Cersei was younger, and she was still at Casterly Rock before she even knew she was promised to marry Rhaegar, right? So obviously, the Mad King denied that, and she never married him. But before that, when Jaime was still young, Cersei would wear his armor, and no one could really tell them apart. And when she did that, no one fucked with her. They were like, "Oh, it's Jaime. You can't. Don't go out past this time. He's gonna be a man eventually. Let him do what he wants to do, right?" So Cersei noticed that from a young age. So she's like, "Hold the fuck up. We're twins. We're born at the same time. Technically, I'm older, whatever. But why is he treated so much differently than me?" And it's because everybody loves this. It's really cringy when I hear men say it, but it's a patriarchal society. And that's what happened, right? That's what really, really kind of fucked her up. She's like, "This is my twin brother. We are equal parts. We are two halves of a whole. Why is he treated so much better than me just because he has a dick?" Right? And that carries on with her whole life. We don't really know how bad it is with her. Like, we know she's crazy. We know that most people don't fuck with her. Most people don't like her, right? But you don't really know how deep it goes until you read her first POV chapter in A Feast for Crows. You're like, yo, she's fucked up. Like, if there is any person in existence right now who is an actual mad queen in A Song of Ice and Fire, it's Cersei. She's crazy. She's so insane, it's delicious to read, right? So let me give you an example off the top of my head. Tommen is a little boy, right? He's like 8 years old. Cersei tells him to shut up because he starts crying because he's sad that his grandpa's dead. She's like, "You're a king." And then she thinks like, Joffrey wouldn't cry, right? It's like, as a parent, to me, that hits deeper, right? Just because, I have a child. So when you have a child and then you see someone else thinking like that, you're like, "Oh, you're crazy. You are really crazy." And then also I'm just trying to find examples of like undeniable craziness, right? Also, everybody handles trauma differently, right? But so when Tywin dies, obviously Tyrion shoots him in the belly with a bolt. The mystery itself goes way deeper because he smells like shit. He's been poisoned by Oberyn, most likely, is the running theory. When Tyrion finds him on the privy, he goes to try to stand up to take the crossbow from Tyrion, and Tyrion pops, from Tyrion's POV. We don't get any of his POV in A Feast for Crows, so we go a whole book without knowing what happens to him. But then when we find out what happens to him in The Dance of Dragons, he just keeps thinking of the sound the crossbow made when he shot the bolt at his father. It's just like a thrum, which is like a haunting noise kind of thing. I don't know. Anyway, as soon as the bolt opens up Tywin's bowels, it hits him like right above the groin. He said Tyrion thinks if he had better aim, he would have shot him in the dick, right? But it opens up his bowels, and the smell just immediately surrounds Tyrion. He's like, "My father shit on me one last time." That's my shitty Tyrion impression from the books. Roy Dotrice does a really good voice for him. But yeah, so, Jaime kind of stands vigilant over his father's body, right? Cersei, she's like, "What would Tywin want me to do? Should I tear my gown?" Which is like a thing that women do in Westeros to show that they're grieving. They just like rip their dresses apart, right? It's a sign of like desperation and like they're sad. And then she thinks like, no, Tywin wouldn't want us to do that. We're lions. Lions don't cry. So she doesn't actually show emotion, right? She's kind of sad that her father's dead, but more so relieved that she's not going to be under his thumb anymore. Like later on in the book when she burns the Tower of the Hand, she thinks Jon Arryn, Ned Stark, Tywin, Tyrion, like all these hands that got in her way, so to speak. She's like thankful that they're dead. And like she has the typical Targaryen attracted to fireness, right? Because like she feels... So, like, Daenerys thinks of this a few times, but Targaryens in in general think like fire cleanses them, right? So Cersei feels like the flames coming up, which are wildfire flames, coming up from the Tower of the Hand, burning, are like cleansing her in sort of like yeah, she's crazy. It is interesting that Jaime notices that Cersei looked like a deathly skeleton in that light. Like all the people that were watching the Tower of the Hand burn, they're just kind of like, the way that George described it's almost like they're glamorized by the fire, but they're just in a trance, right? So Cersei's just letting the green flames bathe all over her face. It's really, it's a really like visually stunning scene, at least how I put it together in my head. But yeah, so who do I think she is? She's her own worst enemy. Let's do 5 things, right? So she's her own worst enemy. She grew up with the male twin. These are kind of like weak-ass points that I'm making. She grew up with a male twin, which is a big adherence to her. If she grew up with a female twin, she wouldn't have started to see the world for what it is so early. So she may have been... Damn, I don't even know how to say this without like feeling like I'm going to offend somebody. But this is a fake character, so who gives a shit? She probably would have been better off with a female twin because she wouldn't have had the experience of pretending to be Jaime, right? So she wouldn't have known what it was like if you put the shoe on the other foot kind of thing. Also, the show's whole thing about saying that her one redeeming quality, that she's a mother that loves her children, complete bullshit. That is complete bullshit. She sees her children as a ploy to better her position. She does not love her kids. She sees her kids as extensions of herself, and that just shows you how more she loves herself. Like how much infatuation she has with her own person, right? She's fucking nuts. That was 4. And then the 5th one is that because she's so pretty, she kind of has it easier because men kind of flock around her, right? So if she was uglier, she probably would have had a harder time, which would have, made her develop into a different person. Not to say that all ugly people are good persons, but if this is just one thing that I think like would have helped, if it was a crutch or if it was like a handicap for Cersei, would have turned her into a different person, right? If she was ugly. How many people are even watching this? All right. Shout out to every single person here right now. Well, we got Gildas, Lord Crackhead 33, Sweet Brown Sugar, Queen Kells, Dennis Sorensen, and I gave a shout out to Philly D. Chanteray Wilkins, Wex is a secret target, and Alar, Lily Valley, and Gildas already. But yeah, just continuing on. So I guess the next part kind of thing that I want to do is like my favorite moments from the books. I kind of already mentioned those to use them as ammo to like, define who she is or how crazy she is. But I think one of my favorite... It's not a favorite moment because it makes me look like a bad person, but it's you can pretend like, right? Because this is fantasy. It's like when this is crazy. So Robert was abusive, right? I don't even know how to really say this without doing a whole fucking character bio. Most of you all know who the book version of King Robert is, right? So for the most of their marriage, he never really loved Cersei. He would claim his rights as a king every now and then. Towards the end of their marriage, it would be less and less, right? So he never loved Cersei. He wanted Lyanna, but she was stolen by Rhaegar. So Cersei's like this shitty replacement, right? In Robert's mind, anyway. So their whole marriage, Cersei did everything she could to sort of prevent any of her children from actually being Robert's. So earlier on in their marriage, Robert would get really drunk and then he would go and basically rape Cersei, right? Sometimes he'd be too drunk to do that, so she would get him off with her hands or her mouth. And one of the ways she would get back at him for kind of like raping her is she would eat his cum. And she pretended, God damn, that sounds crazy. She pretended that every time she took a bite of his cum that she was eating his heirs. Thousands of them. Cersei is fucking nuts. Can you just imagine that? The books are pretty gross. She's just, yeah, that's probably one of my favorite moments. Another one is, it's not really a moment. It's just her interactions with Tyrion before we get her first POV. Tyrion is he's afraid of Cersei, right? So Cersei is kind of like Euron until we get her first POV, in the sense that she's built up, right? Until we see how broken she is mentally, and like how good she is at putting on this external appearance that she's like just this plotting, well put together person, right? So when Tyrion is interacting with her and we don't know her thoughts, but we know his, it's a really cool play on dynamics, because he's like, he poisons her. He puts a drop of something in her wine, and he kind of does that because she says, like, I'm not worried about my dwarf midget brother. He's like, you wouldn't do that. So he intentionally poisons her to keep her at her privy, right? So locked up in her bedchambers, when he maneuvers himself around the small council and locks up a few individuals that are close to her. So it's kind of cool to see that dynamic. Then ultimately, you see that reversed when you get her POV and you realize she was kind of just as afraid of her brother as he was of her, right? So after Tyrion escapes, like, Tyrion didn't kill Joffrey, it was Olenna, right? So it was Olenna, and it's actually kind of similar to what happened on the TV show. So basically, Sansa's given this hairnet by Sir Dantos. He says, like, this is a family heirloom kind of thing. It's different on the TV show because he still stays around in the books, and he's very much like a fool. And one time when Sansa's about to get beaten, he steps up and he's like, let me do it. And then he gives her like fake whaps to sort of like entertain Joffrey, to take to take his anger off of Sansa. Sir Dantos steps up and like tries to prevent one of the King's Guardmen from beating the shit out of Sansa. It's really fucked up. But he obviously fails in doing this. The reason why is because Sansa saved him on his name day. Like in the TV show, she goes, it would be bad luck. It's crazier to get her POV because she's literally making it up as she goes. She's like, fuck, I didn't even know what I was going to say. She's like, she says the words and then her thoughts are, my mouth opened up and I didn't know what I was going to say. I don't know. Anyway, she saves his life because she's like, look, it would be bad luck to kill this dude on your name day. Basically, Dantos is really late for like a jousting thing, and then when he does show up, he's drunk as shit. And Joffrey, like very much like on the TV show, is like, I'm gonna kill you, right? And Sansa saves him. I forgot how the fuck this related to Cersei. How did I get? Yo, let me know in the chat. How did I get to talking about that? It's kind of funny. I think I just started talking about Sansa. Oh, yeah. So Joffrey's death, right? So Cersei being afraid of Tyrion. So it's that's the thing, like, Dantos keeps saying that the stones in the hairnet are black amethyst, and then Sansa notices that one of them are missing. So the TV show just made it clear, like, hey, it's Olenna that does it, right? Anyway, it's not exactly clear yet in the books. So, like I said, it was interesting to see how Tyrion is afraid of Cersei in his POV, and then when the roles get switched, because you think Cersei's like this cool, calculated individual, when you get her POV, you realize from reading it immediately, okay, this bitch is crazy. She's literally more mentally broken than any other character, right? But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, and that's one of my favorite parts, to see that she's just as afraid of Tyrion as Tyrion is of her. Like, they don't know what they're capable of, right? So that's why they don't trust each other. It's interesting. One of the things that the TV show didn't do at all is like Cersei's lesbianness, right? So Cersei has not concubines. She has maids that are close to her. When Marjorie Tyrell shows up in King's Landing, she takes on a few of Marjorie's handmaids because she wants to spy on Marjorie, right? Or Marjorie wants to spy on her, kind of thing. She ends up getting Taina. She ends up getting Taina to sort of spy back and forth, right? So Taina is originally one of Marjorie's handmaids, and then she comes into Cersei's service, and Marjorie thinks that Taina is spying on Cersei for Marjorie, but ultimately Cersei is having Taina spy on Marjorie for her. So Taina tells Cersei all these different things about Marjorie, like she's basically the one who, like, she doesn't convince Cersei to go with the plot of Marjorie losing her maidenhead and cheating on Tommen, and that's why Marjorie gets locked up in the Sept of Baelor by the High Sparrow, right? Taina doesn't necessarily put that plan in her head, but she gives Cersei the information in order to go about doing it, right? So she becomes very close with her, and she's deep in her thoughts, and she's thinking I kind of just want to, she wants to be a man. She really does want to be a man. She wants a dick, right? So she's like, what would it be like to lay with a woman? So she starts, having sexual intercourse with Taina. She starts, like, fingering her and stuff. And that was something that the show stayed away from. But that's why the show's version of the book characters are just a small shadow of what they actually are. You need a whole picture to really get, not to saying that someone who becomes a lesbian is crazy. That's not at all what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to say Cersei's not really a lesbian, but she sort of forces herself on Taina, even though Taina lets her, right? Because she wants to know what it's like, right? It's crazy. It's kind of a mess. One thing that I kind of touched on when I talked about Tyrion and Cersei, their relationship is, I want to talk about her relationship. I guess I kind of talked about it with Tywin, right? So Tywin basically is like, he sees all of his children as similar to how Cersei does. We don't have a POV from Tywin, so we don't know if he truly loves his children. Like, I can 100% confirm, say that Cersei does not love her children. She loves herself, and she sees her children as an extension of herself, right? We don't know if Tywin loves his kids or not, but for the most part, since he sees them, like, Jaime is his heir, Cersei is his way to secure better alliances for his house and make a greater future in his mind, in Tywin's mind, for House Lannister by marrying Cersei to Robert and the Baratheons, right? By doing this. And then again, after he dies, she talks about marrying him to someone else, right? He talks about marrying her to someone else. So you would think that because that's a traditional thing, that his children would fall into those roles. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, for Tyrion, he just sees him as an annoyance, his bane. He tries to do anything he can to get rid of Tyrion. And I don't want to talk about that relationship too much because I do plan on doing a Tyrion live stream. If not next week, then the week after that. I'll probably do Daenerys next week just so we can have a space and not have too many Lannisters. Or maybe even Jon Snow. I don't know. You all let me know down below in the comment section. But we've been doing this for like 25 minutes now, and I'm like almost halfway through my notes. But Cersei's relationship with Tywin is similar to what Cersei's relationship with Jaime becomes in A Feast for Crows and A Dance with Dragons, right? So basically, Cersei's plan backfires. She ends up getting locked up in the Sept of Baelor. She does get released. She does do her walk of shame, but the last we hear from her in A Dance with Dragons, like her last POV, is that she's basically, like, remember the scene from Game of Thrones season 6? See, the end of season 5 where she gets picked up by the mountain and like sort of carried away. That's like the last moment we hear from her in A Dance with Dragons. So her relationship with Jaime right after Tywin dies is somewhat like Cersei's never loved anyone but herself. And because she thinks she loves people, it's similar to her children, right? So Jaime literally is an extension of herself. So she doesn't love Jaime. She loves the idea that Jaime is just another part of her. So right after Tywin dies, Cersei tries to use Jaime. She's like, look, you need to become my hand. I'm going to rule as the regent. I'm going to rule as the queen for Tommen until he becomes of age. I need you as my hand. And she like breaks down. She tries to suck his dick. Jaime's like, if Jaime hadn't lost his hand, he'd be like, hell yeah, let's do this. Let's proclaim our love and let's be the Mad King's children, right? They are, right? So Jaime lost his hand and he's broken. He's now a crippled bastard and broken things. Cersei is just mentally like that. She hasn't physically lost it. No, she hasn't physically had to suffer a great loss to make her change internally, right? Jaime has. He's well on his way to changing. He kind of goes back and forth a little bit. He threatens to send Edmure Frey's baby flying through a catapult over the wall. That happened in the TV show too. But he only says that because he's trying to threaten him to get him to go back to River Run and get them all to lay down their arms, and he will reinstall Edmure as the rightful lord of the castle, right? Blackfish has got them doing all kinds of crazy shit. So Blackfish ends up escaping. Edmure... Anyway, Jaime then, after saying that, thinks about his Aunt Jenna and how she said that you are not Tywin's son. Tyrion is Tywin's son. So he kind of takes that as an insult. So he kind of goes back, wavers back to that shitty person again. And he's like, I wonder what Jenna would say now if she heard what I told Edmure, right? So anyway, getting back to Cersei and Jaime, Cersei immediately does what she always does, which is use her pussy power, right? She's like, look, dude, I'll suck you off if you become the hand of the king. I'll give you all this golden, you know what I'm saying? And Jaime's like, no. And she's like, well, you might want to put your little dick up anyway. It looks nasty. And she starts talking shit about his stump. And then she forces him out. She basically sends him to the Riverlands to go and, wrap up what Tywin started. And then Jaime leaves. And then Cersei is fucking up left and right. In her mind, she's doing everything perfectly. It's hilarious. Cersei is the poster child for Reddit / confidently incorrect. There's so many people like that. Like, I'm a fucking idiot. I will be the first person to say that. But there are so many people on Reddit especially that will just go on this whole fucking tangent and they're just so wrong. Like, what the fuck? You are so stupid. Why are you saying this? Just shut up. You sound smarter if you don't say anything. That's what I want to say to those people who do that. But anyway, that's literally what Cersei's doing. She's like fucking insulting the Tyrells left and right. She's warned by Kevin not to do that. Her Uncle Kevin's like, go back to Casterly Rock. I'll be your hand. I'll be your regent. Go back to Casterly Rock. Get the fuck out of the Seven Kingdoms. Go back. Rule from there. Basically, just chill out. You could do all your shit. Well, no, because her main drive is to rule, right? But she tells him to fuck off. So he leaves. He goes to take care of Lancel, and Lancel's like wounded in the Battle of the Blackwater, and he becomes a shell of his former self, and he won't fuck his wife. So Kevin goes to take care of the Dairylands and, try to figure out what's going on with his son, right? So Lancel ends up confessing to bedding Cersei. Osmond Kettleblack does the same thing. So let me explain this. Let me start from the top, right? Cersei, after she sends away Jaime, after her father dies, after Joffrey dies, after she has this weak, meager king, Tommen, that she can control, she decides she wants to take out the Tyrells. And she thinks that she is Tywin. All of Tywin's children think that they are, except for the one that's most like him, Tyrion. But anyway, well, I guess not because of the whoring and stuff. But anyway, she decides she wants to keep insulting the Tyrells, right? So Tommen, one day Tommen has got his armor on and he's riding a big boy horse, and he fucking hits this Quintain, and he hits the Quintain with a lance, right? and the quintain doesn't hit him. So it's this spinning thing, right? It's something you do to practice jousting and all this shit. So you're armored, you drop your lance down in, and this quintain is basically this dummy that rotates with a heavy sandbag on the other end. And if you don't place the lance at the right spot, or if your horse isn't fast enough, if you don't have enough speed, that sandbag is going to come back around and knock the shit out of you, right? Cersei sees this. Tommen does it successfully. He's able to avoid the sandbag knocking him off his horse. And then Tommen's like, Mother, did you fucking see that? Right? He doesn't curse, but he's like, did you see that? Did you see how awesome I am? And she's like, yes, I did. That's not going to happen again. So Tommen is like, loves Loras Tyrell, right? Like he looks up to him. He's a little boy. Loras Tyrell is very much a knight in shining armor. He's awesome. Jaime even thinks how badass he is, right? So he's like, why don't I become the Master at Arms? The last Master at Arms died or whatever the fuck's. Let me do this, Cersei. Let me teach your son how to fight. She's like, nigga, no, we're not doing that, right? So that was insult number one. And then something happens later on with the Ironborn attacking islands near the Reach, House Highgarden, right? So eventually they'll make their way inland, and that'll be a problem for House Tyrell. So they want to use the fleet that's currently engaging a siege at Dragonstone, and Cersei's like, no, why would I? No, you can't do that. I'm sorry. So then Loras comes up with the idea himself. He's like, look, let me go to Dragonstone. I'll end the siege, and then we can use the royal fleet to go down and help out from the Ironborn attacking near the Reach in Highgarden or whatever, right? I can't remember the exact location they're attacking, but I know it directly affects the Tyrells. Anyway, Cersei's like, yes, sure, you can do this, right? She's like thinking, basically, he'll die. That'll take care of him himself, right? So sure enough, he ends the siege on Dragonstone, right? They're able to take over it, but he's mortally wounded. He's probably going to eventually die. So, now that Loras, who Cersei considered Marjorie's number one protector, is out of the picture, she thinks, now's my time to act. The whole time before the thing happens with Tyrells, I kind of mentioned it earlier with Taena, is she's got different Kingsguard trying to take Marjorie to bed. Cersei says that most highborn girls lose their maidenhead when they're riding on a horse. So, Cersei has Marjorie's maidenhood checked, and she's like, that's not enough. Or she thinks about, like, if she did just say, hey, she's bedding these people, and, like, they checked her maidenhood, they would know that highborn girls most of the time lose that when they're on horseback or whatever. So, she, like, has to go further. She wants to, like, have them found in bed, but that doesn't quite happen. So what she ends up doing is having one of the Kettleblacks go and confess to the High Sparrow about his crimes, and she says that I'll get you sent to the Wall. Then once you're at the Wall, you'll kill Jon Snow for me, and then King Tommen will forgive you. All of your crimes will be forgiven. You'll come back. You'll get this pussy whenever you want. You'll get a lordship. You'll be made. You will have it made. He goes to confess the High Sparrow. The High Sparrow tortures him. He starts confessing more and more, and by the end, he's no longer saying, I fucked Marjorie Tyrell. He's now saying, I fucked Cersei. Cersei had me doing all these different things, right? So, Cersei doesn't quite know about that, right? So she goes to visit with Marjorie at the Sept of Baelor. I've talked about this recently in a video, and I've actually tweeted about it, but while she's getting dressed to go see the High Sparrow, she's like, I need to be weak. I need to wear something that doesn't show off my titties or my shoulders or my legs or my thighs or any of that, right? So she gets dressed. She goes and sees Marjorie. She's very much playing the role of, like, I don't know what you're talking about, Marjorie. I hope you get out. Let's figure this out. We're going to get you out, Marjorie. Don't you worry, sister. And then Marjorie picks up on her bullshit, and she's like, fuck you. Fuck you, Cersei. All you care about is yourself, and no one will ever be good enough for your children. So how about you fuck off, bitch? And Cersei still keeps her composure then, because she's like, I don't know who's listening. So she's like, you've lost it because you're hungry and you need a good shit, right? She doesn't exactly say that, but she's like, you're mad because you're in this cell. I'm going to leave. right? So then Cersei goes to leave, and she wants to go talk to the High Sparrow, right? Because she's pretending that she's going to try to get Marjorie out of there. When she goes and talks to the High Sparrow makes her wait. And then she's like, well, this fucking asshole. God damn it. Why do I have to wait for you to finish praying? So then he finally finishes praying, and he's like, yes, would you like to follow me, right? And then she follows him into this room, and then she sees the Kettle Black boy, Osmond, sprayed out in chains. And then the High Sparrow does something that Cersei is famous for. He starts telling her what Osmond said, and she's like freaking out. She's like, "What? Madness. He's mad, right?" And then finally, the High Sparrow says, "Isn't that right, Sir Osmond?" And then he looks up, and the first thing he says is, "The wall. You promised me the wall." And that's when Cersei goes, "He's mad. I don't know what he's talking about." And then she tries to run. She tries to run away, but it doesn't work. And you're probably like, where the fuck are her guards at? Her guards are actually made to stay outside because no one bears swords in the holy house. So then she's locked up. Bam. Locked up. Bam. The scepters are... She's like, it's funny because as soon as she puts in the cage, as soon as she gets put in jail, she's like, I'll show them what it's like to cage a lion. And she tears her woolen shift and smashes her food and dumps all the water and shit. And then later on at nighttime, she gets cold. So she like regrets it. And then she gets hungry and she regrets that. And then And then there's, that Septa Unello bitch coming in there every couple of hours. Are you ready to confess? Are you ready to confess? Oh, it's like the ultimate punishment. All right, well, this is a good point. We're at 37 minutes. This is a good point to wrap this video up. I want to thank every single person who has watched this live stream, and I want to thank every single person, or who has watched this live stream live, and I want to thank every single person who will watch it after the fact. Please consider checking out my Patreon. It's really obvious what's going on. Well, it's actually not obvious what's going on, but it's obvious that my channel is suffering. I thought it was because I wasn't uploading enough, but I've been uploading ever since the fucking Game of Thrones went off the air. Like, there's never been a time, maybe like a few weeks. Anyway, I think it just really helps if you guys like and leave a comment. But also, that's just, even with people doing that, it doesn't seem like a guaranteed way to get videos promoted. So I just decided, until House of the Dragon comes out, I'm going to still upload regularly. Like, I might upload every day for the rest of this month, maybe. But until then, I'm not going to worry about the views. So in order for me to keep making content, I do have a full-time job. I'm also a full-time parent. My daughter's going to be here in a month. So if you all want these videos, keep watching and subscribe, but also consider checking out my Patreon. I should have been pushing that way more back in the day when I was actually getting views, because that's like, it's not like, oh, give me $5 and I'll make a video. No, it's like, I put in the same amount of effort in this video that I did as the one that got 20,000 views, but this one has 1,000 views, and there's no money being made. So what happens is, mentally, it makes me think like, let me make videos that take less time because I'm making less money. So let me make shittier videos or not as well thought out stuff. I've decided to end all that because that's annoying. I'm going to make the best videos I can and just leave it up to fate whether they get views or not. But if you're a fan of my show and you want me to still be motivated, I don't even know how to say this. I sound like a fucking douchebag. Please consider dropping, a tip on patreon.com/earnsreviews. Thank you for watching. My name is Mark, and like I said, really, if you can't do that, that's fine. The best thing you can do for any YouTuber is to watch their videos, like, comment, and then share. This has been... Hopefully I did a good job breaking down Cersei. I don't think I've ever talked about some of these things. Oh, shit. 2 more things. This video's not done yet. 2 more things. All right. So, the video title in the thumbnail, The Queen Who Played with Lions. Now, that's really kind of crazy, right? So put your tinfoil caps on. I don't have any tinfoil up here, but I have my Spider-Man figurine that I could rub for good luck. This is Miles Morales, right? So I rubbed him, not for good luck, but for the tinfoil. I don't know, whatever. I'm being corny. Cersei used to play with the lions underneath Casterly Rock, and she would show no fear. Now, not almost, House Targaryen, the Blackwoods, the Valerians, any house that's linked to a greater house probably has some sort of magic in their blood, right? You gotta think, like, Starks, the direwolves are, obviously, they're sigil, but every single one of Ned Stark's children are wargs. Like, Sansa never got to develop her gift, but she still gets dreams. You know what? To be fair, every single POV character has fucked up dreams. So, yeah. But anyway, it's so crazy. There's a small group of people that think that the reason why Cersei was fearless as a child is because secretly the Lannisters are cat wargs. I don't fucking know. But look, there's not that much to it, right? So some people think that Cersei would warg into the female lion as a kid, and then she stayed in there too long, and her mind got switched with the lion's mind, and that's why the lion thinks he's a male and wants to do all of these things. But also there was a part of Cersei that was left in there, and they're sort of fighting each other. But I don't know about all that. I think that there may be some Lannisters like Lan the Clever who could... They have like if you're playing like an RPG game, one of the things you could increase in Elder Scrolls Online, so that would be like Skyrim and stuff, is your speech. You could talk your way out of stuff. So maybe that's what Lan the Clever was. He could warg ideas into people's mind, and they will think either they came up with it themselves or he's convinced them somehow, right? There's not that much to it, but the cats are sly, and Tyrion shouldn't have been able to convince his jailer Maud to release him. Or once Maud releases him, he shouldn't have been able to convince him to give him back his shadow cat cloak, but he's able to. Tyrion talks his way out of so many different situations. The Lannisters are not cat wargs per se, but they can be sly like cats. I don't even know. That was one of the things I was going to mention. And then the other thing was Maggie the Frog. That whole prophecy is really kind of what is influencing Cersei, right? The problem is that she's misinterpreting it. Much like with every other person who tries to interpret prophecy and make sense of their dreams in A Song of Ice and Fire, they get it wrong. They get it catastrophically wrong. They always do. And Cersei doesn't realize that she's destroying herself. She's the younger queen who made mistakes in the past that are now coming to bite her in the ass. She thinks younger, more beautiful equals Marjorie, or in the TV show maybe Daenerys, right? That's not the case. The mistake she made as a child by going to Maggie the Frog and having her read her future, right, is what's going to destroy her. Maggie the Frog is a prophetic woods witch who may be linked to the Westerlings. I'll save that for a later video. But Sybil Spicer's grandmother was said to be a woods witch. And obviously, the Westerlings are vassals of House Lannister, so they would be in the Western Lands near Lannisport, that famous woods witch. I don't know. What the fuck was I just getting at? There's a point that I was making. Oh yeah, so literally nothing would happen if Cersei didn't believe that prophecy was true. But she's having like this self-fulfillment of it because she's letting it rule every decision she makes. And she's secretly destroying herself because she's looking out for this younger queen. And really, no. It's the mistakes you made in your past that are going to destroy you. That was my big revelation about the Maggie the Frog prophecy. There's no younger queen. Like, you could argue that, yeah, Marjorie was... But no, Cersei got rid of her. And Daenerys is a world away, right? And she wouldn't be known as the younger queen; she'd be the Dragon Queen. So if that was the case, if it was going to be Daenerys, Maggie the Frog would have said, "You're going to be a fire that is hotter and more burning than you." I don't know. Fuck. But I'm going to get the fuck out of here. I want to thank you all so much for watching. My name is Mark, and this has been Sir Hunt's Reviews. Long night.